all of these, there you can see there's a sudden, there's like a before and after moment here, right? Is that fair to say? Just on results alone. So I'm interested to look and see whether there's a... When was Rettles trust the process tweet? That's a good question. Can we get some Rettles Twitter stalking to work out when the moments were? But anyway, let's have a look. So this was Regional 3, the most recent one. And we can see their run, Shopify Rebellion, a big win over Complexity. Huge there. Tough loss to Space Station. Reasonably close throughout, but like Space Station look really good right now, and they've both won against each other recently, and it was closer in the lowers, but like they've won against each other recently. Right after Winter Regional 2. If that's the case, then the trust the process was the moment. That was the moment right there. So then they go down, the reverse sweep versus Faze. Huge mental fortitude to come back there. Right, 16th of Feb. It would have been that would have been just before the Winter Cup then. If it was 16th of Feb. So trust the process. Get hit down one more time before coming back. But yeah, Optic, big win over Faze, then beat G2. Probably feeling high on life after that. And this is a big game as well for seeding and all that kind of stuff. On the day, no, I just checked. It happened 16th of Feb is the day before. Right? Look. Start date, 17th. They'd have been knocked out on the 17th. Right? Okay, and then they lost to Space Station here. Just too many losses in a row here. Their timeout didn't come through, but it was close still. Close throughout. It went to overtime, so it's literally like an overtime goal to separate them. So I think this is all good stuff, right? Like this game here is a coin flip game. This here is probably a big knockdown. This was like a crazy pullback mental resilience game. Space Station look good right now. Like not too bad to be losing those. Spring Open, that other big performance. Started off big win over Koi, big win over Sup. Who's on Sup? Interesting. And they beat G2, fair enough. Lost to Complexity, but they've beaten them in the past, so I think that's a fair result. Beating G2, they seem to have it over G2. Beat Space Station on this occasion, lost to Gen G. Again, all fair results. Like, I think there's the top 5 in North America right now seem pretty interchangeable based off of the day, if they're feeling good or not. Did mention in the past how he respects AJ for keeping confident even when Rettles and Magic making a lot of defensive errors. Yeah, I mean, we'll see it in the gameplay. I think Magic Bear's the biggest one with confidence that I've noticed in the past. I know Rettles can have confidence issues as well. I was just looking back at some other results with these. Which event's this? This was the Winter Invitational. So this is when they sorted it out, right? Beat Faze, beat M80, beat Knights, beat Shopify, lost to G2. Okay. Yeah, like, they're not making crazy wins, right? Like, they're not doing anything astronomical, but they're a solid team in North America right now. I do think that if they want to be the best team in North America, they still need to level up one more. Like, right now, they are a team who could beat anyone, but, like, they're still not at that level. Like we look in Europe, like Vitality are at a level which will beat everyone most of the time. And we don't have that North American team right now because Faze and Gen G were the potential for that team, and they both dropped off a little bit. So now we've got a little bit of a mix-up. I think Complexity, I would say, are probably the strongest team in North America from what I've seen right now. Have been the most consistently strong. But even they're susceptible to having an off day. So, like, it's really hard right now in North America because there is a lot of teams that could win on the day. And that's why the final spring event was so big, because any team could have taken it at that moment. So Optic are in a very unique position right now where they're one of the stronger performers in a underperforming mess of teams. I think let's have a look at rankings. Let's have a look at North American rankings. So we're in a position now where Gen G guaranteed seed 1 from North America going to Worlds, as FaZe can't overtake them now because they didn't make the event. And they're guaranteed points at the major, so they're going to push themselves in a nice spot. Complexity are looking a solid 3rd. It's up to how well they do at the major. G2 can't go any higher from here, so they are in a position, I think they're wait, what does this mean? This is like 2, 3, 4 are guaranteed Worlds. 5, 6, 7, 8 depends on major performance of North America as a region, I believe. So we're just waiting to see what happens at the major. But version 1 are in a really rough spot now, right? Because Furia and Optic can both quite easily overtake them at this next event. I don't believe this 8 has been added on, right? 16, 24, 29, 32, 43, 54... 78. Oh, it has. Okay, so these 8s have been added on already. And so I think from what I heard, both these teams, if they get top 8 or higher, will overtake version 1. If either of them get top 8 or higher, they'll overtake version 1. So that will push version 1 down. Space Station, I think, are in a strong spot. But yeah, Optic Gaming are coming up towards the end of the season. And so they really need to perform well at Boston to try and be in with a good chance of making Worlds. Optic and Furia might play each other for a world spot. That would be huge. What a game that would be. Typically, the final major doesn't mean a huge amount for these teams, but because of the messes North America's been in this season, having so many different teams make majors, it's really meant that this final one will be an exciting time. I think Furia and Optic have the most interesting story going into this Boston event. But I do think that seeing Space Station, seeing whether they can perform on LAN without Laniel will be an interesting one. You know, Arsenal typically quite a good LAN player. I think Complexity, you know, if they can get another strong performance like they had at the Winter Major, that'll be huge for them too. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, what's your guess on Magic at first LAN? I think he'll be a bit nervous, but then I think Rettles is a great player to have on your team at a LAN. I think he's shown that in the past with people like Daniel, like he's able to bring the best out of his peers. And AJ's been to so many LANs now. Like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Magic will have the right support structure around him to perform on LAN. And I think that's, I mean, it's also like, what's their coach going to be like on LAN, right? Like being a coach on LAN is a lot tougher. I think people underestimate how much a coach will struggle with the pressure on LAN, right? Normally a coach can hide off camera to a certain extent. You know, they have the cameras on now, but like they're not the center of attention when their team are playing most of the time. Whereas suddenly, boom, you're standing on a stage, you're very vulnerable. You know, everyone's looking at you, and like it's very hard to get your point across with the adrenaline of the environment. So you have to create a strategy as a coach going into a big LAN match to simplify even further what you would normally coach. You literally have to come out of a game and be like, there's nothing I could have said that would have changed that, because it would have gone in one ear and gone out the other, because it's so hard to get points across in a high pressure LAN match. But you know, they have the timeouts now, so utilizing a timeout well. You know, I'm sure Rettles will speak a fair amount as well on LAN. He'll be able to calm the nerves and things like that. So yeah, I've never felt a bigger adrenaline rush than being on stage at Season 8. So I'm sure the players will and the coach will feel that too. So yeah, we'll see. But let's get into some replays. Let's look at the stats. So first things first, I want to have a look at the stats. This is... Whee! Thank you very much, Whitehammer. So this is Winter Regional 2, just before they made the big change. How's it going? It's going good. Hope you're doing well. Oh, we got a very thin pen suddenly. So I want to just try and isolate the stats.
How's it going?
Where possible. So we can do this. Are they the only team with a 26 games in this? Yes, they are. So we can do one of these. Oh, that's going to be awkward. Pop that there. So we can see typically AJ way more points, way more goals, typically the highest shooting percentage, most shots. Like he's the most shooty of the players, right? And equally we see Rettles with a high demo amount. You know, the assists are fairly even across the board. Like no one's standing out on assists. Rettles typically not scoring as often, lower shooting percentage, probably looking to shoot around the net a bit more, I would imagine. And just like do things like set up plays and go for demos. You typically see that in higher assist players and ones who are more focused on recovery. Interestingly, they don't make a huge amount of saves. So I'm intrigued as to where they defend from. Like they don't have a high save player. Especially for a team that's losing a lot, right? Like Optic are losing a lot at this stage. Like I know it says 53.85%, but this is including the closed qualifier. They had a lot of losses, and this is when they were underperforming. And typically teams who are underperforming have a lot more saves. Like if we look down, I don't know, this might not prove a point, but like I mean, version 1 are a very defensive team. You can start to see the numbers start going into the 2s. But yeah, like they have a reasonably low... So I think they had a good game plan, but it wasn't quite executed well. That's what it looks like from the stats. Maybe they relied a bit too much on AJ's pop-off. I don't know. We'll have to look into it. Let's look at boost stats. Sort by games. Let's have a look. AJ, very high boost usage. Keeps this boost fairly high on the average, but very reliant on the hundreds, as you can see here. You can see Magic Bear has a very low average boost. This is probably one of the lowest in North America. I don't know for sure, but we can have a look at that in a sec. Like a high 0 boost count. So we'll look and compare that to others. And relying more on pads. And this is fine. We see this a lot in teams where they have the pad player. The one who leaves the hundreds for the other two. But you can see both Rettles and AJ are super reliant on 100s and don't get many pads. So I'd be intrigued as to see whether they've changed their boost collection habits and that's helped them perform better. This is before they started doing better, by the way, guys. So if you're unsure as to what the stats here are, we're looking at before. And also Rettles wasting a lot of boost. I say wasting, you typically see higher boost used while Supersonic and people who go for bumps a lot because it helps consistently get bumps because you boost through a bump. And also boost starvers, that kind of stuff. You tend to see that quite high. But yeah, all of them using higher than average boost. Keeping their average amounts below 50 is not great, especially Magic Bear is this low. Let's have a look how he compares. Yeah, one of the third lowest. And like the other players you can see, they're on teams where their teammates got really bad boost habits, typically. And so they have to go via pads. So we'll see how this looks in positioning. Just got to always remind myself where the stats are. I can only work it out once I get there. Let's have a look here. Okay. So Magic Bear sitting the deepest, which makes a lot of sense. But typically you want your pad player. You're the one who picks up pads. You typically want them to be a midfield roamer, right? If they're the ones who's going furthest back, that's a bad sign because that means they're sitting at the back on lower boost. So if you're a pad collector, you typically see it most effective with the disruptive players like your Itachis and stuff. But yeah, you can see Rettles very far from the ball. AJ typically closer to the ball, wants to be an on the ball player more than anything. But yeah, you can see Magic Bear is the most back. You can also see here, this is not a good sign. Both Rettles and AJ, not a huge amount of time behind the ball. And we saw with other teams where they have two players not very often behind the ball, puts a lot of pressure on the individual who is the one who's behind the ball the most. And even here, Magic Bear's not behind the ball a huge amount. And this is not a good sign for them because it's going to mean they overcommit a lot more. It's going to mean that they're going to be a lot more vulnerable. They're going to have to back off a lot more at this time. So we'll see if that's changed in their stats. And it can also be an indication that they were losing out on interactions. Getting beaten to the ball a lot as well, because if you get beaten to the ball, you tend to have a lower percentage behind the ball. Yeah, we'll put this up on YouTube afterwards. Stats can be very deceitful. That's why I'm not forming any definitive conclusions from the stats. I'm asking questions from the stats, right? Like, I've not said this means. I've said this could mean. I've also looked at some of the stats and gone, this will be interesting to look at to see whether it's changed. This will be interesting to look at. Stats indicate things to look out for. They don't tell you definitive information. So yeah, whenever I'm going through the stats, I'm doing it to build a picture for myself. And typically when a team goes from very poor performance to much better performance, you can see a very big difference in their stats, which is what we saw with teams like Liquid, or Hogan mode when we're looking at them in the last analysis. So yeah, anyway, it looks like Magic Bear was forced to be at the back a lot and be more stuck back and forced to be on the pads as well. But yeah, Rettles, this is really concerning. Rettles being this far away from the play and upfield, I reckon there was a lot of leaving teammates vulnerable. Like we can see here, this is one of the highest distances from the ball and most forward. So yeah, and you can also see position behind the ball. Like when they're in that sort of 65 to 70 range, that's the lower end of the spectrum. Whereas the ones who are at the higher end, typically you see much stronger teams at the higher end and stronger players just because it's a good stat to have. You sometimes see in some cases it's a sign of a bad thing in some teams where they're forced back a lot. But typically having higher percentage behind the ball as a team is a better stat. Anyway, movement. Let's have a look at movement. This will be interesting to see. So 26. AJ Rettles moving very fast. Actually, they're all moving pretty fast as a team. Rettles very grounded. Doesn't surprise me. AJ less grounded. Doesn't surprise me too. Both of them pretty supersonic. Same thing with Magic Bear. So I reckon a lot of wasted boost and a lot of speed being misdirected looking at this, but who knows. I think they're moving quite a lot faster than most teams, which is a good thing sometimes. Like being fast is a good thing, but I reckon it's meaning that they are forced to commit a little bit more and less structured at this time. It'd be interesting to see if that changes in the stats. Less time behind the ball, but more time traveling fast when you're trying to compensate. I mean, it's also, if you're traveling fast and you make a challenge on the ball, you're much more likely to send yourself flying into the opponent's half. So, like, if you lose an interaction going super fast, you're much more likely to hoy yourself into the distance. So there is an element of that too. But let's have a look. Let's have a look at Regional 3, so the most recent regional. As we can see, they're nicely positioned at the top. Thank you very much, Optic. It's very kind of you to do that. So again, we see AJ by far the most points. The other two pretty similar on that. Most goals as well. Their shooting percentage has all gone up. So the quality of shots and shots on net turning into goals has improved. Assists still not particularly high, right? Like as a team, they're not doing a crazy amount of assists. So they do rely a little bit on solo plays in that sense. Demos pretty high from Rettles. Magic Bear getting involved in some of the demos too, but nothing crazy there. similar win percentage to what we saw before. So yeah, this was from the most recent regional. So like they're not winning a lot of games. Like the games that they're losing quite heavily, and the games that they're winning, they're only just winning. So that means their game win percentage is pretty close to 50-50. But let's have a look at the boost stats here, because you can see they played a lot more games than anyone else because they had the lower bracket run and some reverse sweepage. So interesting, right? Look at the boost stats here. So their average amounts are all a bit lower. I think Magic Bears has gone up, but they're all a little bit lower. So yeah, their boost might be something that they can still work on, right? Time at 0 boost is up for Magic Bear. More pad collection from all of them. So that's a good sign. More pad collection. AJ and Rettles still quite 100 reliant, but they're picking up more pads now. Interesting. So their average amounts are all lower now, but they're all picking up more pads. So I guess they're sticking in the play more. Maybe what this is showing is that they're choosing to not get 100s, which would increase your average amount quite significantly, and looking to stick in the play a little bit more with pads and keep that pressure on, and maybe like be more positional focused now rather than rotate out, get 100s. They still get a fair amount of 100s, but the like extra 10 pads also for Rettles and AJ. Well, wait, it was 26, wasn't it? So you can see the average amount of Rettles and AJ was higher, but they barely got any pads. So I reckon they've decided to stick in the play more, which has balanced out their rotation a little bit more. But interesting to see whether that is the case or not. Positioning wise, let's see what's changed here then, if anything. Okay, so AJ's gone back more. Interesting. So AJ's playing behind the ball more. Rettles is playing upfield still and being disruptive. Okay. It seems like they're playing deeper in general though, compared to what we saw. Like as a team, like they're willing to play in their own half a bit more, right? Because this was, look, or in their own third, I should say. So it looks like they're playing more in their own third, but like they're still like not a huge amount behind the ball. I guess the whole territory of their games has shifted a bit further back. Did their saves change much? Yeah, their saves have gone up. And maybe this is also because they're playing against better teams. So therefore, when they're playing against better teams, they're having to be more defensive at times. So there could be an element of the opponents that they faced, because this was them playing against stronger opponents, where this first set of stats was them against closed qualifier teams. So there could be an element of they were on offense more against closed qualifier teams, which skewed their stats up. And then what we're seeing here is skewed stats towards a slightly more defensive game plan because they're against stronger teams with better offense. So that could be a factor into why that's changed. And maybe that's why their average boost is a bit lower, because they're being forced to be a little bit more boost starved, right? And then movement, let's have a little look at their movement just to finish off here. So yeah, just a little bit more controlled with their speed. So it's a little bit slowed down. Still nice and grounded from Rettles. AJ's still quite aerial focused, which is fine. They're a little bit more in control with their speed, which kind of, being at boost speed and slow speed a bit more is kind of in tune with what we said about the picking up pads and staying in the play a bit more. Because typically you rack up your speed when you're rotating out all the way and going for hundreds. Because that's the time where you're spending the most time at supersonic typically. Yeah, you can see they're just spending more time at slow speed. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that affects. I mean, their proximity to the ball is still quite high in both. But again, that could be the opponent skewing that. But yeah, well, I guess we'll have a look. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at a replay. Let me delete this now. We've had a look at the stats. I like that little pen overlay. I don't know if that was helpful for you guys to try and see the stats a bit better. I just feel like it helps isolate the teams. It's hard when some of the teams have the same amount of games played, but I think it was really helpful for me anyway to see the stats. So let's have a look in the main event. Groups. So this is when they lost in groups. They were Group B in this one, was it? Oh, God knows which group they're in. Let's just go group by group. Okay, we've guessed the right group. Group A. Round 3 was this against Koi. Yeah, I thought it was. Let's have a watch of them versus Koi. Okay, so this is purely for, let's see how they used to be. Yeah, a lot of wasted boost. I think this is going to be the big thing that I'm going to notice with Optic in general. I think they're quite a boost-heavy team, quite a wasteful team at times. But we'll see if that's the case. Yeah, this is not good decision-making from back then, right? Like, not very well structured, whereas they have a much better structure now. Yeah, you can just see how much boost Magic Bear has wasted this whole time. Because he's uncertain of what to do. And, like, I don't think... Like, this is smart by Rettles, right? But it's just a bit rushed from AJ. Like, Rettles gets a bump, gets another bump, sets up a opportunity here. But, like, it's just a little bit of a rush play. And then they're rushing back, right? Which we said would probably be the case with those stats, was that they would have to, like, they'd have no midfield control because they'd have to rush back off of every offensive opportunity they go for. Yeah, look, again, this is what we said about the boost stats. You can see this right here. This is why their average amounts are lower in general, and, like, their low pad usage would affect them back then. Because, like, look at this. Like, right now... If we go into this position, we can see that they're at this, when they were not as strong, they're very, like, reliant on the hundreds. And so there's only 2 100s in this part of the pitch, and all 3 of them are in this part of the pitch, and they all need 100s to be able to get boosts, as you can see in the top corner. And so consequently, one of them is going to be boost starved. Whereas if they're a little bit more comfortable with padding, or they're a bit more boost efficient and didn't get themselves down to 0 as often back then they would have been able, one of them would have been able to pad up from 50, say, for example, and then not all of them would have needed to get those hundreds. And this is partly because they're very rushed and very forcefully fast, and so they would aggressively push on the ball, and things like this is where those faster game plans work well. It's when little mistakes happen, you're much more likely to get on the ball. Because you're ball chasing, right? If you're ball chasing, you're fast, you're aggressive. When the ball sprays out like that, and you could see right here, Aqua, static. I mean, it's not good positioning from Koi. I'm not trying to say this is good from them. Because they're static, the speed from Optic allowed them to punish in that situation. And so they were very reliant on mistakes with this game plan. And very susceptible to mistakes. Or getting boost starved, right? Bit of a kickoff goal. I heard Rettles saying on Johnny Boy's stream, he was saying about how, because of Gen G, a lot of teams now have kickoff strats and a little bit more kickoff focused. I definitely think having Johnny Boy rinse the whole region for their kickoffs, and a team like Gen G coming in and punishing teams with their kickoffs is definitely going to have affected the attitude towards kickoffs. But yeah, like, you can just see the overcommitting nature of their decisions. So it leaves Magic Bear in such a rough position, right? So remember what we said about Magic Bear being the most back? Not because he wants to be, but because he's kind of forced to be. Like, Rettles and AJ here, very overcommitting with the decision making, right? And, like, Magic Bear can't go in at any moment here, has to sort of back off and wait. And so they can't get that midfield control. And then they're relying on taking some pressure out of the opponents to get the ball. Yeah, poor structure, poor boost management in general. And like you can see where good teams would punish this right now. Like there's so many gaps in their structure, right? Like one bump and there's an opportunity to score, which like it's literally like one bump and they're gonna concede, right? Because like right now, look at their boost amounts. You can see in the top corner. And like they're all struggling. They're all super 100 reliant. Whenever they're moving back through the midfield, they're not picking up pads. Like I think AJ right here gets one pad, another pad. But like you can see the pad gets instantly used, right? Like they're not saving boost anywhere. So then they're super susceptible to anything changing from the norm. Like I'd be interested to see where AJ's boost has all gone, right? 100's not there, then he puts them in a rough position, right? Like that 100 reliance looked like something that had improved in their stats. Anyway, let's not harp on this for too long. I'm just intrigued to see where they've come from and what's changed. Ooh, big 100 miss. And again, you see like how close they are to conceding just based off of 100 boost being missed. They're not covering for each other as well, right? Like you can see right here. This is what we mentioned was so good about Vitality, is they're in a position where they can be creative, because when they're creative, they get rewarded. If they fail, they get rewarded if they win, right? And in this situation, Rettles wins out that interaction and then isn't rewarded off the follow-up behind him. And that just comes from, you know, Magic Bear is not focused on how to deal with cleaning up Rettles' situation. He's focused on getting that boost and getting the bump. And maybe even here, Rettles is rushing away a little bit with his play. You can see he's rushed with this play. Used up like 40 boost to try and start that play to get it going. And I think AJ does this a lot as well. So I think this is in general the whole team. Because they're rushing to make their play happen, using a lot of boost to make their play happen. By the time they make the play happen, their team isn't structured around them. And like you can see that right here, if we look over at the pitch, you know, you've got Magic Bear very close behind, so he's gonna have to readjust here and probably go like something like this, or he's gonna get too close like he does in the end. So he's not following up comfortably here. And Rettles is making a play just to outplay what's in front of him and not thinking about breaking down the opposition. Because they're all just thinking rush, make play, rush, make play. And like you can see where AJ is right now. AJ's having to pad up on the other side, and it's just not a natural instinct for him to support this play here. Whereas if AJ was more like here right now, could look to come in and cut that touch off from Accra in the end, right? And so you can see if we go back into the play, like no one is there cleaning up after Rettles' play, so the outplay was actually the worst thing Rettles could do there, and instead Rettles should have just played for something like a 50-50. But like their mindset was just make play happen, make play happen, make play happen. So it'd be interesting to see what the playing off of each other stuff has changed to now, whether they're looking to go for things like 50-50s and forces more, whether they're more boost efficient, all these things, whether they've changed, and like see if there was like a clear I'm going to do this now kind of change, like we saw with Oski on Liquid when he changed to being a little bit more rotating back. That was a very clear difference in their game plan. That was a nice play there. Big clear from Rettles. AJ keeping it moving. Magic Bear, good decision making. Good mechs. It's not very reproducible because it relied on mispositioning from the opponents, but as we mentioned, that's what they relied on a lot for their offense back then, because it was very chasey and very like, I'm going to do a mechanical play and hope that it upsets your rotation enough. Yeah, like look how often Magic Bear gets down to 0. It's crazy. And like, look at this float. Anyway, let's get into something a bit more recent. So that was useful to kind of litmus test and see where they were. Let's go over to the SSG, no, the Optic versus Faze game now. So this is the big one, right? So we want to watch them where they started and where they ended in this one. Before I do, let's have a little look at chat. I've not been speaking to chat much here. Was that interesting to look at, by the way, for you guys? Like to see where they were back in the day? Good baseline. Yeah, it's interesting to look at that. Yeah, they never really had a true supporting position for anything, it seemed like. Okay. Yeah, you can see they're kind of cleaning up after each other a little bit. Padding up a little bit more, maintaining more boost. You see, just being a bit more patient, not forcing the play. There, yeah, this you can see them like cancelling decisions a bit more and like not over forcing the play. That was a bit of a whiffy touch. It was fine because Rettles was lurking for the bump, but yeah, it was a. But again, this is when they were at the beginning of this series, so this isn't them at their best yet, right? But this looks so much better. It's like it's a lot more like breaking down rather than trying to force the play. There's definitely a little bit of Rettles demo chasing going on, like overdoing it a little bit, but that's fine because Faze hate that. Alright, let's get into Rettles here. You can see why they've got a lower average boost because they are boosting around the pitch still a lot. Which does concern me that, you know, they can get punished for that. Yeah, from the stats I've looked at, they probably got one of the worst boost managements of any team. Like, this is very overcommitting from Rettles with the way he's playing right now. And I'd like to see him be more selective with when he goes for bumps and be a little bit more involved in the rotation, the natural rotation of the team, maintaining a bit more boost and then use it as like a more effective catch him off guard moment. Because it seems at this stage they're trying to overdo their strengths. Like this, yeah, this is just poor rotation right here, right? Like Rettles, like you can see at this point, if we go above, like, I want to come from this angle, right? You can see at this point here with where they're positioned, like Rettles is fine to push up here because he needs that mid boost, right? And then he comes in here and then turns bullside, right? Whereas I would much prefer to see like a first man force. Like his presence here is going to make first killer go, so first killer is gone. And at that point, rotate across and then kind of cover this area, right? Now, where they go from this turn, I don't know. But, like, this is a bad angle. This is the way you want to go. So, this I refer to as the first move, the first movement, like the rotate out mindset. Like, the like, at this point, right? Rettles is on 0, right? Pushing through, looking to make a play. At this point here, as the first person, like Rettles has chased beyond the ball hitter, so the person behind him, so has taken on the first man role. And in this situation, you have multiple decisions, but one of the hardest decisions that a lot of players forget about is the do nothing decision, right? So you can either fake, force, boost, steal, bump, right? Like you can do one of those things. But then the main thing you got to do off the back of that is get back. You can see at this point here, Rettles, I think, is debating whether to go for the boost steal, but realistically, that could actually boost steal from Magic Bear. So I think he then goes, "Oh, I shouldn't boost steal here because that'll boost up my teammate. He's going to be landing upfield at this point." So at that point, looks to go to try and cover the touch. And as you can see, AJ and Magic Bear are both already there. So yeah, I'd like to see some more like stepping away. It was AJ who was landing, not Magic Bear, sorry. Magic Bear was kind of already landing behind, but yeah, both of them were landing on the right side of the pitch. So I'd like to have seen Rettles in this situation shift across and cover the left side a bit more, especially with a lot of boost. But yeah, essentially force first killer, rotate across, maybe get a bump in this area even, could be something deadly. Look to rotate in through the middle of the pitch, and then they would be acting as that supporting second person role. And I think that's where the most mature first players in Rocket League shine, is their ability to recognize when not to go and when to. And this is what we saw with Vitality. Some of their best plays were when the first person came in, created pressure, got a boost steal or a fake bump or anything like that, and then rotated out. And then you can see at the moment that goes this side, they're then scrambling, and it's like, let's reset the play and go away. But like, that was not healthy rotations right there. And so they had to use a lot of boost to recover that situation. You can see Mist did it perfectly right there, right? As the first person on this ball. First person on the ball, just leaving it. And then rotating away. And then they can come in and clean up off of the plays. So like Rettles is overdoing that I'm going to be that chief disruptor role. You see again, like it's just... Rettles is finding himself a little bit lost here and getting in front of the teammates and like making it a bit of a 2v3 at times. Like that should have been a goal right there. Like that's unlucky from Faze. Like the bumpy roll is amazing if it's done in balance with a good rotation. And we saw that with Com on version 1 with Torment last season when they won that regional. That was the most balanced version 1's rotations looked. And it's because Com was picking and choosing the right times to go for the demos. And not doing it forcefully, but instead just naturally finding those opportunities to go for it. And I think right now we're seeing a lack of that sweeping middle of the pitch roll. And that's probably why their pad collection is generally quite low, because they don't sort of sweep through those lines. Magic Bear does, but then that's a bit of a misread there. But you can see again, they have to back off fully, so they have none of that midfield presence from rotating across the pitch and then coming back in through that midfield roll. And then consequently, they have to be way more reactive in defense and less controlled in that midfield. And it just gives teams like Faze so much space and free reign. So I'd be interested to see whether that's cut out in their last game, or in their last games when they started playing a lot better. Let's have a look at... I mean, AJ is one of the best on-the-ball players in RLCS, right? Like, if you put AJ in any situation with 100 boost, space, and time, like, he is the scariest player in Rocket League, in my opinion. The things he can do with the ball are unbelievable. But the way they're playing right now is not nurturing that kind of environment for him. And so consequently, he's rushing towards the play rather than being given the space to do these things. So I wonder if there's an element of Rettles is trying to rush towards the play to let AJ just chill out off the ball. Yeah, I'd prefer to see AJ sitting a little bit further from the play, maintaining his boost closer to 100, and being ready to come in and do his business. Like, that's what we see with Zen, right? Like, Zen is being given the ability to do that on Vitality by Alpha being that upfield disruptor, Radosin being that fill the gap player who's willing to not go when he doesn't need to, and then Zen, whenever he's in space with 100 boost, is allowed to be special on the ball, right? We see the same thing in Gen G with Chronic. He did that very well. We saw it with Vatira and Exotic. Like, Itachi comes in, disrupts the play, sets up situations for Exotic and for Vatira. So yeah, like, when you've got a player like that, you need to set them up and not force them to have to do the grunt work, right? And right here, AJ is doing a lot of the grunt work. And like, you can see he's not in space with time because he's rushing towards the play. Like, that is a great example of it right there. Like, he's got 100 boost here. And he zooms into the play. Whereas if he just, like, kept that boost high, went via a few pads with a bit of momentum, he could come onto this ball with pace and do something crazy, you know? So yeah, this is interesting to watch. Right, let's go over to game 6 and 7, because these are high scoring games as well, so it'll be interesting to see where the goals come from. So this is the game 6 Neo Tokyo game. Ooh, we've got some Fennec switches. Is that the whole of Optic and Fennecs? Fair play. They've all taken the switch. The thing about the midfield defensive presence that Rise brought up is it doesn't come from them not having midfield defensive presence. It comes from them having too much over aggression in offense and not picking and choosing the right times. And you can see that as well from the way they're rotating off when they're done. Like, they're not creating situations where they've got boost ready to cover in the midfield. Like, you see how often they get down to 0 boost. Like, their boost is still a massive problem. And you can see Magic Bear is willing to take on a fairly disruptive role, which is quite nice. Like, that's a good play by Magic Bear to set up the space for AJ, which is exactly what we mentioned. That needs to be done more. Like, you see here, AJ with space and 100 boost, he just scores, right? Like, so, yeah, let's see. Like, Magic Bear has already shown some good disruptive presence. Yeah, like, I think the way Retals is playing right now, like, you can see here, in these situations, AJ has quite a slow recovery speed with his plays, because he goes for much floatier aerial plays than most, right? Right, I mean, he did get bumped there, but in general, AJ's recovery speed is quite slow, because he's quite a floaty aerial player, and he rotates to 100s, doesn't rotate via pads, etc., etc. So what I was trying to say with that is that it means that Magic Bear can't maintain that pressure because their tempo is very like AJ Retals, wait. Magic Bear comes in. AJ Retals, wait. Magic Bear comes in, right? And so it's putting a lot of pressure on Magic Bear to take that time up and go for a solo play. Rotate out, fill the gap behind, and then see what happens. Whereas I would like a little bit more of that balanced rotation from them, and then lean into the imbalanced rotation when it's right, you know, like play a more neutral focus game, and then when the opponent is broken down a little bit more, that's when you bring out the offense. But like you can see just here, like this is just nasty Rocket League. It's just not good Rocket League. And like, I know Magic Bear's faked him out there, but like this is scrappy. And this is where the demo heavy playstyle that Retals has will punish teams who make these small mistakes, because you will create gaps and you will create goals, but you'll also then concede a lot of goals doing it, because as we mentioned, they have no midfield control. So if a team starts countering and they've got good mechs and they know how to do it, they're going to struggle. And I think, I'll be honest with you, the way Optic play right now will really struggle against a European team. I just don't think. I'm trying to think which European teams would would even like have a problem with this. I don't think there's any of them. Like, they're all so grindy in the neutral game, and they're so structured that when they come up against a team like this, they will punish it. So I think Optic will have to change the way they play massively to be able to beat any European team. I think they'll have no boost against Liquid all the time if they play like this. I think Vitality will just, like, Alpha will just punish them with his speed. And, like, Zen on the counter-attack will just do Zen stuff and they'll just get absolutely destroyed. Like, this just won't work against a team with solid structure and solid neutral game. So I do have concerns, and, like, there is something creative and good here that we're seeing, which is the decisions Rettel's going for is very clever at times. Like, he's going for a lot of very clever plays like this. Like, some of the bumps are very good. The way he breaks down teams is very good. But the rhythm with AJ coming in so soon and so fast, it means that their rhythm is like Rettel's AJ pause, Rettel's AJ pause. And so they don't have that consistent slam down pressure. And then it also puts a lot of strain on Magic Bear. Chat saying Null agrees. Like, you see that? Like, that is so all in. So one of the big issues I see with this team is their boost management in general. Like, they are willing to go down to the last boost so often in all of their plays. Like, just look how much boost is being used for such little game. And, like, the efficiency's just not there right now. And I think they will get punished for that on their bad days. I'm trying to work out how, like... They're very good at playing off of Rettel's bumps, though. Like, I will be honest, like, they are... Like, Rettel's bumps are deadly. Like, it is a big factor for them, and, like, Rettel's is very good at it. He's been doing it a long time, and obviously his comms are amazing, so we know that they're doing that. And it definitely causes teams to panic more, right? Like, the... Oh, this was when they started trolling because First Killer was AFK, right? Hey, Acronic! Hello! Whoa! How you doing? Welcome, welcome, everybody. How was your stream? Did you score 15 nutty goals like you always do, or was it a more laid-back grind in the ranked? 2's rank's been sweaty, though, recently, right? 2's ranked has been sweaty thanks to Fear. I hope you had a good stream, though. I'm analyzing Optic Gaming right now. We are looking at what's their strengths, what's their weaknesses, how did they manage to get the reverse sweeps, etc. Only hit like 2 psychos. Pretty amateur, pretty poor. But we are looking to try and work out what they need to work on, what their weaknesses are right now. I did just make a big statement, so you can't let me down now, Acronic. I said, I don't think Optic, if they play this way, will be able to beat any of the European teams going to Boston. So you got to make sure that doesn't happen. I think you guys will just rinse them for boost, and they will have no boost for anything, and you'll just zoom around them, as you always do. Hey, what's up, Boston? How you doing, sir? I saw you you were doing a watch party with Sunless. Very nice stuff. Is Boston going to be in Boston? Is there going to be a Boston? What's their typical Pat? EU should dominate major. I mean, the thing is, it's all about prep, right? Like, once you make the major, that's where you start looking at your opposition in Europe and you start going, oh, this is what these guys are doing really well. Let's try and work out how we can replicate that, how we can beat that, etc, etc. But yeah, it's interesting seeing the difference in Optic versus what we saw. I guess we saw like Hogan mode where there was some things that could be improved on. So I don't know if every team in Europe is popping off, but like when we analyze Vitality, that looked like a whole different level, and like K Corp as well. You can even say BDS to an extent. Optic actually have a decent chance of the major. I mean, so much of it depends on your bracket, right? Can you dodge and weave the European teams? You don't know yet. Well, we shall see. BDS at LAN should be good. I mean, we'll see, won't we? Like BDS, Monkey Moon and Seiko have come dead last at LANs and have also won Worlds. So who knows? You can never know. Can I show you the bracket? No, I'm fine, thank you. Optic versus Nip. And then they play against the winner of Moist and Furia, right? Yeah. I mean, Furia should be good on LAN in theory. Interesting. Well, we'll see. I mean, it's a double limb. Who knows with Nip as well? Sam are unreal these days. Alright, let's go back to the analysis. But yeah, the main issue I have right now with the way these guys play is it is very all in, and they have to back off and give up midfield massively because they don't have that midfield controlling second person. It's always a third who's got to be careful and not risk it because of how long it takes for their team to recover with how little boost they have after their plays. Like if we just watch this next play, right? AJ on the ball, he's just been sent the ball. Let's see how much boost he has after this play. You see? So like every single time they finish a play, they end it with 0. And you just see that like difference in speed of recovery. The difference in speed of recovery is that first bit of recovery. Look how much more boost it requires. And then look, out of boost again. Now AJ is out of the game for a while, relying on hundreds. And look, can't make a play on that ball. Has to back off. And then consequently they concede, right? So like they are making themselves vulnerable through their boost management. And also the overcommitment is quite consistent with them. Like here, Magic Bear gets... Like what? Like right here. 0 boost. Why are you going for this, right? Like just chill out and like reset the play a bit. And like it seems like they don't reset to gain boost and start like having control of the neutral game a bit more. When is it okay to use all of your boost for an attempt at a goal? When you've got a team broken down, right? Like when the opponent's in a vulnerable position is the main time you should be doing it. At this stage, they're not breaking the teams down enough. They're not like they're relying on a sudden shift from neutral game to advantage through Rettle's demos, and a lot of the time you have to commit for the play before the Rettle's demo comes out. They almost throw away this lead here, right? Off the back of that weird interaction earlier. But you like see how slow the recovery speed is then for Magic Bear, and how predictive he has to be with his decisions. What I'm going to ask you guys to do, actually, real quick, is I just want you to look up in the top corner over there, right? Wait, it's above me, right? It's above me. So just look up here at their boost as it goes up and down, right? So just have a watch for, like some open play here. Okay, that was. This is overtime now. Okay. What do you notice? you notice how long they spend on 0 boost? My Magic Bear's on 0 this whole time. Okay, it gets the 100. See how quickly all the boost just goes? Where's Magic Bear going? Magic Bear's trying to get the bumps. This is... honestly, it's madness. I mean, they're probably feeling a little bit nervous because it's an overtime and they're on match point. And, like, that tends to be the time when you see the most boost being used. I'd be interested to see what they were like in scrims. Oh yeah, Gen G have such amazing boost management. This is kind of like night and day with them. Like, Appjack has such good pad usage and stuff like that, but this is crazy. Like, AJ uses 30 boosts straight away after every time he picks up 100. Every solo play goes down to 0. Magic Bear's often still in the play with 0. Like, Magic Bear has one of the highest time on 0 boost of any player in RLCS. Look how much boost was just used there. Like, okay, so this is something I do quite a lot, right? Is I like to look at the last 100 being taken and then what happens for those players, that player. Like, was it worth 100 boosts, right? So you watch them pick up the 100 and then you watch their play until they go down to 0, right? And you want to see, was that worth it? Or could they have been more efficient? Was there ways they could have collected more boost throughout, like pick up pads or etc., right? Like, so you're just looking to see how their 100 boost goes. So I call it the 100 to 0 assessment. So we look at it here, right? 100 to 0. Let's have a look. So first off, we're down to 54 to go to the ball. Now, what I will say, these little boost taps, they're typically associated with being nervous. You know, people tend to get twitchy when they're nervous. And so they tend to waste a bit of boost through nerves. So I'd say this is nervous boost tapping. Might be a bad habit from AJ, but I'm going to be a bit lenient. It's overtime, you know, probably getting tense because he could get a goal scoring opportunity here. So he wants to make sure doesn't miss it, right? So these are little nervous boost taps. Missed a few pads here, but it's fine. I think it was just one pad. Doesn't really matter too much. Goes to that ball. And you see holds down boost out of it. And then gets that 100, right? And that's fine, right? And you see the next 100 gets that 100 there. Fine. You see how every single time it's like 100 down to 0. And if the big 100 is available, it's fine. But the moment when it's not, that's when they boost starve themselves. And so right here, the big 100 is not available for AJ. So has to rotate completely away. Comes in, gets that big hit. Okay, this is a big mistake from Faze, right? Why is first killer going for that? Like, this is the same thing we spoke about earlier with Rettles before the raid. Just go across the pitch, get out of the way, spread out the team. Like, this is the classic. Here, let me go into this overlay and do the triangles. Like, you can see, look at how small the phase triangle is, because like at this moment here, if first killer just darted off to the right, it would be so much nicer. But look at how on top of each other they are. It's not looking good, bruv. So that's a bit of a phase mistake. But yeah, like their boost management is a big issue, and it's definitely going to get punished by teams with better boost management than them. Especially the European teams will really punish that. Seems like there's 2 of them with nearly no boost at all times. Yeah, that pretty much always is. Let's watch the final game though from this series. If you're enjoying this analysis content, I'm hopefully going to be doing analysis streams most of the days this week. I'll be looking to do some during the early stages of Boston as well, but my brother is getting married that weekend, so it will depend on what I'm doing in the lead up. Yeah, we shall see. Blimey. It's working. That's unlucky. No, it's good play by them, to be fair. But again, like, just... Okay. So, I have a YouTube video on this. What overlay was that? It's a private overlay that I got created. You can get similar stuff if you look up... I can't remember the name, but it's like LNDNR or something like that. I replied with a tweet about it on my tweet that I made about it. But there is public equivalents of it, but I got mine personally made for me by a guy called Yakubo. Costs a bit of money. It's the same system that does the overlays at the top. Like this is an SOS overlay, which uses backers mod. It's the same thing that pretty much all overlays use in RLCS. You can get them personally made for what you need, just using the data from in-game. But then, yeah, there is a few public versions of them out there. The RLCS streams use backers mod. I'm pretty sure they use an SOS plugin with backers mod. I don't know for sure, but I would assume so. But yeah, like, we're going to go back to the Gregan rotate out mindset stuff video. It's on my YouTube channel. It's the first video I made with my editor Sunny back in the day. So it's a thing called the rotate out mindset, where once you're done with the play, there's 3 things you need to do. Rotate away from the play and come back in a useful position with boost, right? So rotate away, useful position with boost. And you being able to recognize when you're in that situation where you should be adopting the rotate out mindset is one of the key things I think that Optic could work on. So we're often seeing them throwing themselves at plays when on 0 boost and out of the play. And they need to just regroup more often and rotate out more often. Because they are the team that's in front of the ball the most of any top performing team, I'd say, looking at the stats. They're pretty, on average, they're all like 30% in front of the ball, where typically you want to be like, as a team on average, like 22 to 25%. Partly because of Rettel's demoing a lot, but AJ and Magic Bear both spend a lot of time in front of the ball too. Because what it does is if you delay that rotate out mindset, you get yourself in positions like this, where your recovery speed's slower. Like if AJ had just decided I'm going to rotate out, they'd have got that boost there, right? So let's look here. If at this stage, AJ literally just comms, I'm faking it, or I'm forcing it, he can literally just go, I'm rotating out. Go get that boost, rotate back. Could even go for a demo on the way through and rotate out that way, whatever it is, right? But if at this moment here, AJ makes the decision, I'm rotating out, could even rotate back this way if it was particularly squeaky bum time. I'd say because they're in a strong position, they could take the longer rotation path and go for the boost still on the way out. But that decision to just give up on the play and rotate away is key here. And I don't think they do it enough, especially on 0 boost. And it actually leads to him saving the goal. And I'm not saying this is the reason why he saved a goal, but like, if he just zoomed across the net, kept low, and just focused on getting that boost, Mist wouldn't have boost now. Magic Bear would be able to come in a lot sooner, and they could keep that pressure on. Whereas instead, they're doing this like weird, we have to give up control thing. You can even see there with Magic Bear, right? Like his first decision was not to rotate away after that play. It was to rotate towards the play rather than away from the play. Like even here, I don't think it was that far off what he should have been doing. He should have been rotating down the middle of the pitch. But it's just that innate tendency they seem to have as a team, which is to rotate at the play. And then consequently, they're not back in time ever. Right? Like AJ here. Like where's AJ rotated back? Full side rotation. Like, literally... Just here. Just drive this way. Right? Rotate away from the play, not at it. Right? This is where the play is. You want to rotate away from it to come back towards it. And it's like their instinctual movement pattern is rotating at the play. How on earth can you say that that's fine? This is one of AJ's biggest problems, that he rotates at the play and finds himself in positions like this. It's also the same thing for Rettles here, right? Like, everyone's got very direct routes towards the play. So they're right here. They're rotating at the play, not like creating space for themselves. They need to be using the arc of the pitch. This isn't that bad from Rettles, right? Like, he's fine to be going forward like this. But yeah, like, their rotation paths are just very off because they're never really reading the play. So they're not intercepting stuff. Like, you can see the same thing with AJ beforehand, right? Like, right here. Look at how much it affects their rotation patterns later. Literally, like, he would have been first this ball if he just rotated away from the play sooner. Right? Like, it just adds up every single time. And so consequently, they've got these weird rotation patterns that lead them to be in really uncomfortable positions quite frequently. And it's because they don't rotate away from the play often enough. And it's fine to have a player doing it, right? Like, in Vitality, they have Alpha. In Hogan mode, they had Growly. In Liquid, they have Atto. In K-Corp, they have Itachi. But it means that the person who's just made a play is then going for the next play. And so consequently, they have much less boost. They go from 100 to 0 way more often. And they don't have someone covering behind very often, just in their natural rotation. This is fine to charge at because the situation they're in, right? Like, doesn't see Magic Bear coming in. But you can even see in these situations, right? Like, it's their natural instinct is to charge towards the play. Like, this is so much better right here, right? Okay, what's the play happened before? Okay, just gone for this. Absolutely fine. They should just be going via the pads in the midfield at this point. You see, like, they've rotated towards the play without any boost. Right? So right here, cuts across, that's fine. Gets that pad, that's fine. Needs to get that pad. When that 100's not there, go via the pads in the midfield. We can see, like, how reliant on the 100 they are there. Look at where Magic Bear and Rettles are rotating. Do you see this, right? Like, look at where they're coming from. They're coming at them. And, like, AJ's having to turn on the spot here. So, like, they've never got any, like, arcing into the play motion. Like, see, literally here, AJ has been bumped across the pitch into a better position. And then, do you see the next moment here? How much better that was? Because he got bumped across and so therefore was playing in space. And then look, They almost scored because of it, right? And so this is something that I've described before in the past, is you often see rotations from players when they rotate at the ball a lot. You'll often see, and this is all three of them, right? Rotating at the ball in situations where they should probably be focusing on rotating out. Look, just like right here, this is just go over here somewhere, right? Stop doing this little tight turn, because you're here with 23 boosts. There's nothing you can do, right? Like, rotate further away, get up some momentum, pick up some pads, go like this, or like if you're at this point, you see the 100 there, you can nip and get the 100 and come back in. But like, by turning back in so tight, it's like super risky, right? I didn't actually fully catch the route they took, but look at this route here. Ooh. It's just not a smart route. They need to rotate away from the play more. Like this is the exact situation we're talking about, right? The rotate out mindset. Really good play from Magic Bear here. Great fake, pops it over. Good punish of Faze's decision making and those interactions there. Great job. Now get out of the way. That's the key, right? Get out the way. But there's no getting out the way, so then they have to back off, and then they lose all midfield pressure. And then they concede, right? Like, can you see this? It's not the best play from Rettles as well, off the back of it. It would have been more fine if Magic Bear had rotated away from the play a bit more and had more boost to play with. But then, like, the tempo of AJ coming in is pretty bad as well. Like, that just shouldn't be going for that, because your team needs to recover. But a lot of it comes down to this sort of just drive. If you rotate at the play as aggressively as these guys all do, your tempo is super fast. And so you end up just getting on the ball so quickly that you either have to go or back off completely. And if you have to go or back off completely, you're going to find yourself in these situations where you make one slightly wrong decision, you're going to be on the back foot. And then when a team is feeling it, they'll punish you. This is exactly what I mentioned, right? With, like, if you're up against a top team and they've got any player with boost and space, they will punish you now, because the mechanics are so good of players that they can do that. And that's exactly what First Killer has just done there. They just 1v3 counterattacked, right? There's no doubt, though, that this creates scrappy goals, right? Like, we've seen the goals it creates. So, like that's a really nice play there from Rettles. Why is this so much better than the other plays, guys? Why is this a good play from Rettles? What's the biggest factor? There's two big things. Spacing. Spacing's the first big one. The bump is not a big thing. They've been bumping a lot. Like, he bumped in that last play. So, like, bumping's not the big thing. He left the ball is kind of it, but, like, the initial spacing, right? Like, the tempo here, right? Firstly, AJ driving away from the play. So when he comes back in, he has momentum, he has vision, etc., etc. He didn't have boost. We've said that's a problem. Boost is a problem. But AJ has rotated away to come back in a useful position, right? Like, look at the point when AJ comes back in towards the play. Look at what he can see. He can see all three of his opponents. He can see Rettles on the ball. He knows exactly the angle of attack he needs to take here to be able to score this goal, because of the fact he rotated away from the play. Rettles, because he was opposite side of the pitch, because of the way he was rotating here and was opposite side of the pitch, as he comes in for this play, he firstly could see everything initially, but he can also take up more time, so that gives Magic Bear time to rotate back. Makes a very good play, like, it is a very good play. But also, look how quickly he would have got back if that play hadn't worked, right? His rotation speed would have been much faster coming out of that, because he chose to rotate out, get a bump on the way out, and then go back, right? So in that situation, had AJ been blocked, they still would have been fine because both Magic Bear and Rettles would have been out of the play, coming back in towards it, right? So it's like, it's a safe option they've taken here, and it comes down to AJ's spacing back then, and Rettles' spacing here too. I'd also say it's pretty poor from Faze, but Faze don't have a great structure as well, so they punish them for their bad structure. Optic's playstyle is very risky, yeah. So how does this next goal go? Literally the same thing again, right? Like, look, I'm gonna bring up the... Just look at this. Look at how much more spread out they are. Look at, do you see the opposite side of the pitch movement from Magic Bear? Like, that's the key here. They can use the width because Magic Bear's on the opposite side of the pitch, right? This movement from Magic Bear is so key here. Like, even though AJ and Rettles bump, which is a bit of a rubbish mistake, but Magic Bear creates this play by being on the opposite side, and Rettles spots it. Like, even though he had low boost there, just the fact that he was in more space, right? Let's have a watch of Magic Bear's decision here. Look at how easy that is for him when he's on the opposite side of the pitch to make a decision. Right? Look. Can see everything. Literally the whole pitch is in front of him. This is so much better. Has no boost, but it's so much more effective when you rotate out opposite side and rotate away from the play. And honestly, like, Rettles not over bumping, it looks so much better when he's not over bumping and just chooses the right moments to do it. Like, right there. Literally, like... Look, AJ's rotating out, rotating away from the play. Like, just because you're rotating away from the play doesn't mean you have to leave the play, right? Like, here, he's not in the play, rotates away and then can come back towards it, right? Like, by rotating away, you create the space for yourself. Like, even in little situations like this, right? It creates space for you where you can come back towards it. And it allows you to see things better, right? Like, you start to rotate away at that point. Bump gets called, can rotate back towards it, right? Rettles, I mean, it's a kickoff goal, right? Like, it is still just a kickoff goal, but, like... Again, you see the same thing here? Look at the speed of recovery from Rettles. Like, it's going to be so quick after that. Yeah. I mean, it's a kickoff goal after all, but still. But do you see here as well, right? Like, AJ, opposite side of the pitch here. I think this has come naturally off the kickoff, right? So, like, the play has rotated to the opposite side of the pitch, so AJ has naturally been forced to the opposite side of the pitch. So when he comes into the play, opposite side of the pitch. When he comes into play again, opposite side of the pitch. Even though he has 0 boost, it's a much more threatening angle on the play. And, like, obviously if he had boost, it would be a lot better. But, again, opposite side of the pitch. So in all these situations, AJ hasn't chosen to be opposite side of the pitch. It's just kind of naturally happened. And this is where you can see sometimes Optic force themselves same side as the pitch as each other. And it messes them up a lot. Like right here, do you see how much harder this was for AJ? Same side of the pitch challenge, right? There's not much you could do here. But this, like, this is the difference, right? When you're on the same side of the pitch, the challenges become a lot harder. Same thing with Rettles here. And net adopted a front post position just based off of the misread there. These are all fine things. This happens in Rocket League. But you see how much more uncomfortable they are? Like AJ turns bullside here with no boost. Look how much harder that touch is to make. It's a lot rougher. And also, like, you end up just boost starving yourself because you're constantly rotating towards the play and not just having that chance to recover and get some boost. This will come back to something beforehand. Probably something before this. Yeah, you can see those little boost battles. Good paddage here from Magic Bear. Missed out on that boost challenge just because of being on 0. Comes in, slightly rush touch away, but like you just see them, they grind themselves out of boost very easily. So yeah, I think you can see where their problems are. Like they obviously won this amazing reverse sweep, and it was a very scrappy reverse sweep. And obviously there is an element of clutch that you need in every situation. You need to be clutch, and that's something you just can't teach. Like these guys were able to step up in those big moments and execute, which they've done well. But there is an element of habitual problems that I can see letting them down against stronger teams playing well. I think North America has definitely regressed a little bit this split compared to previous splits, with the quality that we've seen. But I think the biggest thing is they waste a lot of boost moving around the pitch. They stay bullside a lot more than they probably should, and they should just rotate away from the play and just give up on plays a lot more. Because at this stage they're gonna score goals, but they're also gonna concede a lot of goals, right? Like they're gonna get scrappy goals, but also concede. So it's definitely a playstyle thing, but it forces a lot more challenging mechanics out of them, which puts a lot more pressure on the guys to be able to react and get a good touch in a lot of situations. And teams that are more patient and much more neutral game focused and more efficient with their boost management will definitely punish Optic in a series, just because they can keep that pressure on and grind them down. Let's have a look. This here, SSG versus Optic. Oh yeah, they're obviously playing with a lot of nerves, but when you're nervous, that's when your bad habits come through the most. Okay. Yeah, that's fine there by Rattles. This is all good stuff. Yeah, like they're not covering as much space with the way they play. So consequently, these little touches into space don't necessarily fall in their favor that often. Like you see situations like this, right? Like when the interaction for Arsenal is here, like they're not covering that space very well at all, right? Like right now, if we go above, you can see LJ's got a big coverage here. Arsenal's got a big coverage here. And then Hox has got all of this area covered. Rettles has got like a very narrow window of interception here. AJ is covering deep here. I should probably change the colors up for these. Rettles has got this space here. AJ's got this space here. But like, I know Magic Bear's obviously out the play. But like, you can see how much better the structure for SSG covers this interaction. Right? Like Arsenal can get it on the wall and get to it first. AJ's covering a very non-threatening area because his back is turned to the play, and Rettles is covering a very narrow window because he's too close to the play with little momentum. So as a team in these kinds of situations, they're going to struggle to intercept plays, and so they'll just have to back off, and then that's where that midfield control goes in favor of their opposition a lot of time. Like, see how much space is in the midfield for Hoxer there. Like LJ right now, look at how much area LJ is covering. So as soon as that ball pops out, he can come in and can react to it well. There's an element of overlap in the way Optic read the play as well. Look how boost... Like when we've been watching Optic players, now if you watch LJ in comparison, you can see how different the boost management is, right? Ooh! Almost. Okay, that was pretty poor from Arsenal and Hoxer. Forced quite a lot out of LJ there. LJ's looking so good right now, though. You can even see just like the difference in decision making from LJ to go back there instead. Ooh. Yeah, there's quite a lot of double committing from SSG. I think there's still an element of not knowing what the hierarchy is. And like Hoxer probably want to come in and charge the play down. Hoxer's always played quite momentum-y. Yeah, it's good. Good punish from Optic. Just AJ in space with the ball. We know what that's like. That's why AJ is one of the best on the ball players. Isn't this from the Spring Open? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I opened up some various replays from them recently. In theory, there should be less pressure on them at this stage, right? So we were noticing like a high pressure playstyle before. This was when they first played and SSG... Wait. Yeah, Optic won against SSG. So I wanted to see what... I wanted to see both of them like the first time they faced off with new SSG. It's definitely a lot less panicky, so there's definitely an element of the panic coming through in the other gameplay. Just looking to be a bit more boost efficient, take control. Yeah, you could see the nerves increase the bad habits to a point that was very, very analyzable. Whereas here we can see those bad habits exist still, right? Like this example right here. How on earth have they got in a position where all three of them are defending from ball side, right? Now this is a habitual thing, right? So this is going to come back to something that's happened beforehand. So we can look here off the kickoff. Both of them off the kickoff went that way, which is fine, right? Magic Bear getting that boost there is fine. But in these situations, Magic Bear should be... Like, I'll show the point. Like right here, Magic Bear should be looking to just zoom off in this direction, right? And it's not just about getting back into defense. It's about getting into a much stronger neutral position. Because if Magic Bear in this situation goes off this way, if the ball goes against them, it can come into a back post. If the ball goes for them, can push up into a very strong second person position. So this sort of place here is a much stronger place to be rotating back to, especially when you've already got Retals and AJ there. You're just going to be stacking up in the same position. And you can even do stuff like, if you come in here, you can even get into this zone here and cut off passes or get bumps on stuff like LJ there. And just have a presence in that middle of the pitch. Can be quite useful. So yeah, the habitual rotation down the ball side of the sideline is a big problem. And you can see like they were lucky that Hoxer's shot there was poor. So it gave them the ability to just defend it. They had quite a high power slide count, if I remember correctly. At the time, I didn't think too much of it. But I can see where that's coming from, of like rotating ball side a lot more. You tend to have less power sliding when you're on the opposite side of the pitch. Like, the sort of close to the play players tend to be the ones you power slide the most. Thank you very much, Antikas. It's good to be back. So like right here, fine to go for the bumps, fine to rotate back. There we go. Opposite side of the pitch rotation. And then came back same side. Stick to it. Commit to it.
So happy the analysis is back on the channel. Top quality RL content.
Okay. Couldn't be waiting for a poor touch from rails or rattled dimes in there. I mean, yes, but they keep putting themselves in those positions on zero boost. They're just going to run themselves down to the ground, right? It's fine. He goes via the pad route. Honestly, it's fine. It's not that deep, but it's like, it's the constant... Like, if every single time you rotate ball side, it's gonna start biting you. And you're gonna have to be predictive, right? Because then Magic Bear's late to that play. Right, like just imagine in this situation, I know it's easy to say it in hindsight, but the whole reason why you rotate out opposite side is because you cover so much more as a team. Right? Like imagine if right here... Imagine if right here, Magic Bear decides to go this route here instead. Or like, can even go over to that boost at some point. You know, could go at any point, depending on how the play goes. Could even like go here, recognize that AJ might get beat, be in this position here to try and start coming back this way, and then recognize that the ball goes over here and get there first, etc, etc. But instead, what we're going to see is... rotates back towards the play, now is sitting further away from the play, and then consequently is late to the ball, right? So it's like, it's all about just covering the better area and being more spread out, right? Because you don't have to go for every ball. You don't have to always hit the ball. You don't always have to be on the next ball. And it feels to me like they're uncomfortable with the idea of just watching the space and being comfortable in space. And then they have to back off a lot. Yeah, we said the same thing about Scrub Killer, right? Like, he's taken on a very deep role in Hogan mode, which allowed them to succeed, but consequently is not filling in the gaps the best possible. And so there is an element of improvement required. Oh, this is the stuff I like, right? Alright, like, here, AJ faking it, very clearly faking it. Magic Bear comes in with momentum. Like, see how the wide player with momentum can do so much more? Like, look at this moment, right? This is what we're talking about. These moments it creates when you're spread out. Right here. Magic Bear has a problem in front of him which he can solve because he has all the information available to solve. So he can call off AJ nice and early, come in, make the shot. And all that while, AJ can rotate out. Like, AJ could have literally rotated out as soon as that ball was there. Right? Like here, could literally just start rotating out. Doesn't even need to fake it. But obviously it's fine to fake it. It might have led to something better as long as they commed it. Like, look how rushed they are onto the ball. Like, in this situation, I get why AJ went for it. He was like, let me have this ball, but just chill out off the ball. Like, they're all getting on top of each other so much because they're not willing. I think Magic Bear has literally used up 100 boosts without even going for the ball here. He did get bumped, to be fair. Yeah, the structure is a little bit off. To be fair though, I've never been a big fan of the way teams AJ is on play. I really don't like the way they structure generally because I think AJ rushes quite a lot, so consequently rushes the whole team. I think when they're the best here, it's when they're all just giving each other time, rotating out, spreading out a bit more, and choosing the right moments to rotate in with a bump. Being a little bit more selective with those moments. In particular, as a first man with two teammates who've got boost. Those tend to be the strongest times. And like Magic Bear looks so much more comfortable when they're all a bit more patient, right? But there's a lot of good stuff there. Like, don't get me wrong. There's stuff to look at and be like, you know, there's something strong here. Like, there's something solid about this team. Like, they're very creative in space with the ball. Very creative with their off-the-ball players, with the bumps. I'm tempted to watch a 1-0 game, you know? Seen better in the Invitational, to be fair. Let's watch some Invitational. It's probably the last replay I watch here. Playing for a 50 there, I like that. I like this positioning from Rettles. Very nice. You see that little step away? That was really nice. But again, like AJ's ball side. Like it's always the same story. Like there's not really much you can do, but like you see, these ball side situations happen far too often. Like this is fine because Magic Bear is not ball side on this particular occasion. Do you know what? I'm gonna switch over to this for a sec and have a little watch. Opposite side Rattles here. Nice, good patience. Good block. Rotate out opposite side. Rattles, nice. See, like there, Rattles can make the decision not to go because he's opposite side, so it's nice and easy, so we can just force. AJ's very close behind here. Does take some time up in the corner, it's nice. Rotates away, lovely. That movement from AJ was so key there. You see this? AJ rotating across. Nice simple structure. Do you see this point here? Where AJ can then pressure that ball because he's on the opposite side. It's this moment here where it tucks in behind. Goes forward. They both go at the same time. Okay, opposite side. This is nice. Rattle's a bit too close. AJ on the ball is good. Rattle's rotating out opposite side. Loads of space. Magic Bear was able to come in. Set up AJ for a solo play. This is really nice. See this structure, like how they can keep more pressure on. See, opposite side, got all that vision. Okay, we'll go back to some Rocket League so you can see it. Yeah, this is so much better now. Like, you can see with the spread out, how they can intercept things way easier with momentum, with speed. It's a lot more efficient boost-wise. It's a lot more spread out. But it seems like when they're playing badly, their bad habits come through. And they get very bullside rotatey. They get very jumpy and all in with their decision making. Like right here, see how nice this is, right? You see how this position here, how powerful this is? Like, they almost scored a goal off of that just from being the opposite side of the pitch. Ooh, that was really nice. Opposite side of the pitch right here. And like, this is fine. Being bullside is fine as long as you just recognize to get out of the way for your opposite side player to come in. Then you can do stuff like this, right? Like, this is good from AJ here. Like, just being patient off the ball, holding that 100 boost and just chilling out and just waiting. See how much less rushed and panicky it is. I know they lost this game in the end, but like, the reason why they were only conceded 1 goal here is quite apparent. They need to be able to balance this kind of structure with the creativity and use the right times to be creative, right? That's the step for them to be a major contender, I think. Is to have this kind of defensive structure, but when they are on the ball, to be able to be that next level offensive structure. Because then they're a little bit reliant on poor structured teams and mistakes to get their goals sometimes. Like when we were watching SSG in that last game and watching Faze as well, it seems like they needed them to make mistakes to open up those opportunities, right? They weren't moving themselves from neutral to advantage through their own strong doing. It was more when they're at advantage from the opponent's mistakes, they would then turn it into a goal a lot better than most teams because they're good at getting those bump plays, good solo plays from AJ, etc. So I'd be interested to see if they can turn a neutral position into an advantage position a bit more often, right? Oh, that's unlucky. That was a good try there. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, this is good neutral from them, which is making it hard for them to be scored on, right? Like, I don't know what the scoreboard's saying, right? Like, both teams have got a solid amount of shots. Like, neither team is crazy in the lead. Both teams are creating opportunities for themselves, but, like, they're not necessarily scary opportunities. It's just, like, a solid neutral game right now. But then to take it to the next level, that's where you need to create those environments where you can score and your opponent can't score. And then, like, right here, this is AJ bullside. AJ and Rettles both defending from bullside. And they get punished for it. Yeah, I'd like to see in this situation Rettles recognize that he's edging closer and then sort of reset it by going back round a little bit. But easy hindsight play to make. I think even just committing to the... I guess AJ probably should have committed on this next ball. But it's hard to do that. Like, they both just backed off ball side and defended ball side, which isn't great. It is what it is. I did say that was going to be my last replay, but I do just want to see the goals in the 6-2 and see how many of them were created from solid breakdown. Two. Oh, they're so frequently two bullside. Rattles retain bullside, that's fine. But I think they just need to learn how to reset their rotation a little bit whenever they're in an uncomfortable position. Like, it's fine to come back and get that boost for Rettles, but recognizing that Magic Bear's already there and just getting out of the way and going to a different place, like resetting your positioning as a player, is key. Because then you don't get these awkward situations, right? I think comms doesn't help, but I don't think comms could fix that situation. I think that's a habitual thing. What, in this situation? Like, Magic Bear is... Magic Bear's backboard here. He should have just gone for it. But I think, yeah, they've thrown each other off a little bit. I think because he's landing backboard, I think it's Magic Bear stays backboard there. But because saw Rettle's coming, he then felt like he shouldn't be backboard. Right? Good touch there. And then also AJ gets too close, I believe, right? Like, no one's coming from back post, right? Like, this ball is the easiest ball to clear with a good structured defense, right? It's falling in front of the net, right? Like, someone needs to be just willing to go towards the back post or, like, cover the middle and go towards the back post. Anyway, they got a kickoff goal. Good demo from AJ. 1v1 sitch. Yeah, I mean, AJ's class in 1v1 situations. It was a good demo. Very good play from AJ. See, like here? You see how dangerous a player coming in from the opposite side of the pitch is with space? Right? Do you see how dangerous this position is right here? Like, it's not... That's not a back post rotation. That's an opposite side of the pitch positioning. It has the same effect as a back post rotation. But you're essentially coming into the play with momentum, with boost, with vision... And like AJ in space with boost with vision is a very dangerous player. As you can see. Rotate away. Go for that boost, that's fine. Go across the pitch. That's fine in the end. I think this is a fine idea to go for like modern Rocket League. You do have situations like that where if you're upfield you can look to be mechy. I don't mind that. Because Magic Bear is already back post here, it's fine. Doesn't need to rotate across. And try and like keep that ball moving. It definitely put off Chicago, right? Actually, Chicago just didn't have the facilities for that. But yeah, he can see AJ there, so he's not going to go. And he probably didn't want to go anyway. You see here, the ball side rotation. Rails had to correct it here. Did a pretty good job of it. It's fine having someone ball side as long as you got someone coming opposite side, which you see there. Right, like this situation is fine. You see the same thing again here, right? Magic Bear. Coming in from the back post. Like, do you see how often they score when they have an opposite side of the pitch rotator? Like, that player is so key to their success. And like that 1-0 game that they lost, they were still playing solid. Like, they were still playing solid Rocket League. But you can see, like, when it works well, how much better it is when they're in those positions like AJ was and turning it into goals. Yeah. They have potential. I think a lot of their problems right now come from their boost management and that was really cool by Magic Bear. But great first touch. That's a very Fennec first touch right there. Yeah, a lot of their problems come from their boost management, their willingness to rotate away from the play when they're done, like when they're out of the play, and rotating opposite side versus ball side. And I think it will allow Magic Bear to be a little bit more effective if the team do that more. Because at the moment, Magic Bear is having to be a little bit, like, conservative when he goes. But it worked a lot better in this. It unlocked Magic Bear a lot more in this series, it seems. But, yeah, overall, I think Optic have potential if they fix some of these things going into Boston and if they make Worlds. I do think they'll struggle a bit against European teams with some of their bad habits. They'll really get highlighted, especially, I mean, all of them for different reasons. Like, Liquid will really highlight their boost management issues. Vitality will also highlight their boost management issues, but will punish their overcommitment very heavily. K-Corp will punish their bullside rotation stuff with Itachi's Disruption and Vatira in space. I think Moist might not necessarily... Moist is probably the best bet they have, and thankfully for them, they're on the same side of the bracket as Moist. But they might even get punished by South American teams, right? Like, South American teams can be quite devastating to play against if you play the bad habit style that we saw earlier, right? Where teams can punish you fast. So, yeah, I mean, that's my conclusion. Did you guys learn anything about Optic today? Like, what was the big takeaways for you guys?